Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slamhub Wrestling. Myself, Suprit, and this is your AEW Dynamite page break review for January 26th, 2022. And I'm joined by Ridwan here. What did you think about this Dynamite here, this special Dynamite? I thought it was good.
It was a really, it was a really good show. Like they promised on certain things and they delivered on all fronts. And the matches were cool. The segments were also really easy to get invested in. So overall, big thumbs up from me.
And talk about the entirety of this show. But before that, if you are new to Slamhub Wrestling, then make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Check out our other content links provided in the description below. So before we get into the review stuff, shall we talk about some AEW news?
Sure, let's go on.
Uh, it's regarding the contract situation. We got several AEW contracts coming up, and also some of them have already expired. So let me list off some names here. So the list starts from Peter Avalon. I think his contract is finished. Marco Stunt is also finished, I guess. Then we have your Joey Janela, Brian Cage, and the big one, Leo Rush. So thoughts of these, contracts getting expired, and I want to get your thoughts, and especially how Tony Khan has handled business here. Like in WWE's case, they future endeavor you like just like that, but here, I think, in my opinion, Tony Khan has respected this contract. If this is a 3-year contract, then he has decided to let this contract expire very quietly, and then he may consider if you want to resign or not. So thoughts on the given list here, and the way Tony Khan has done business.
I'd say it's fine that he has done, and it's normal to do so in other sports ventures. For example, like you have your football clubs. So when there's a contract expiry, either they always negotiate for renewal, or they just let them go for free, or if they some people they just renew so that other clubs can buy them for a good amount. In Tony's case, I think he's done. I mean, this is better than just straight up firing people. So regarding that, like the only damper is of course Big Swole, and we know how that entire thing turned out to be. But regarding, I mean, there are in this list. I mean, relatively big is probably the better way to put them. Like you mentioned, Peter Avalon, I guess he'll be signed because I think he's doing some backstage stuff for them at the moment. So maybe they'll just keep him on payroll, and of course the wingmen are entertaining. So I selfishly want him to
Or
still be a part of
is
it.
Peter Avalon done for good? I think last I heard he's already sent his email, public, like telling all the promoters that he's free and you can sign him or call him for a wrestling show.
I mean, they can still do the occasional indie dates. So maybe because of that, but at the moment, like I said, I selfishly want him to renew with AEW, but if he's done and if he wants to move on, then it's up to him. Then we mentioned Joey Janela. Joey Janela is also doing his own shit, on the other side with the GCW stuff. And to be honest, GCW is skyrocketing at the moment. So good
But
on him on
the
that. And
Hammerstein
actually,
show was
even he has mentioned
something.
in the past that he wants to remain part of AEW just so that he could do his own shit at the other side and while still, get paid big money and on the other. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, you
So
mentioned about the GCW skyrocketing, right?
yeah.
And
So
I
yeah, the GCW.
yeah,
Yeah.
the GCW Hammerstein show was something. Yeah.
It was a spectacle at its
I don't
prime.
know, man. What I watched on Monday evening or something like that. I don't know what I watched. That show was something.
Yeah, I mean that's basically pretty much most of GCW shows where you don't have to expect anything. You just go there for the sake of fun and just ride along with it.
Yeah, at least
Coming back,
at least their promoter Brett Lauderdale, he was honest on Twitter saying that Hammerstein show really good achievement, but he admits that it was not a great show, and he wants to really could say next time he has a chance he wants to deliver on the promise.
Yeah, and I mean these guys outsold ECW and WWE in the same place, even Ring of Honor for that matter.
Yeah. So next time he will work on that quality aspect.
Yep.
But you were saying
Coming back
about
to
Joey Janela.
yeah, so I think he had mentioned in the past saying that he wanted to be part of AEW, and because they let him do his own thing at the same time while simultaneously getting paid big bucks with by Tony Khan. And plus, I think Joey Janela has also he was also helping backstage with recruiting the extras for Dark and Elevation, which now I guess is gone to Sean Dean. He's also doing the same job. So I'm not sure what I mean backstage what more Joey Janela could do. And he's been a regular on Dark with Kayla Rossi. They had the feud with Sonny Kiss, which was pretty highly received for being a Dark feud. And he is also someone I wouldn't mind getting, still being a part of AEW in future. Now coming to the big guns, like you mentioned, we had Brian Cage, we had Leo Rush, and there was another person you mentioned.
Marcus Stunt.
Damn, yeah. With okay, so we're still not on the big guns yet. So I'll just finish off Marco Stunt. I'm sorry. With Marco Stunt, I think he's also pretty much he's done with AEW as far as I know, because he the last we know of him was he was auditioning for The Voice. That's a singing show, and he's not even featured. He's not even featured on AEW one, not even on Dark all that much, and not even on Sammy's vlog. So that's like three negatives there. And at the same time, like even when the Jungle Boy won the championship, there was no sign of Marco Stand. Instead, they like Christian was the one who was celebrating with them. I know the circumstances were a little hard because knowing they had to fill time after Phoenix's injury, but there was no mention of Marco Stand at all. So he seems to be someone who's done. And now moving on to the big guns, I'd say Brian Cage, man, if there was someone who got his own push cut off, it's probably him. If in like he was like a complete weirdo on online, but I don't think that's anything to factor in. It's just that they got better people to feature on AEW. Like they had guys like Brian Cage, and like there was that phase. Like Mr. Brody Lee was there, and like the guys then they later on went on to sign Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, and they made better of their opportunities and they are doing well for themselves. And later on, of course, they upgraded with guys like CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole. So Brian Cage was completely lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
But
Not saying that Brian
being
Cage is a bad wrestler and all.
no. But online, I think there were his wife had some choice words to say about AEW. So that probably got lost. I mean, cut any semblance of plans that he would have, AEW would have had for Brian Cage. And besides that, like him posting all this, like he was liking these anti tweets for, but that's just fan theory. So let's just kill that off. But having said that, I feel he's someone who should leave AEW and he'd be better off back in Impact because Impact is thriving at the moment with the recent addition of Ring of Honor guys, and Brian Cage would shuffle in really well with them, and it's a place where he has of course been a world champion in the past, and he would have had some unfinished business with them too. Or am I missing something?
Impact is good and all, but why should someone go back to Impact?
I mean, I don't think WWE is going to hire him because of his age alone.
But I think WWE could hire him because I've been thinking about this theory about Brian Cage going to WWE for months now. Ever since that first rumor came out that he may be done with AEW, I think he could be a great addition to that roster. Like if
Yeah,
someone in the higher up sees him, sees his look alone, forget the age, then he could make a good fit, I guess.
but realistically, I don't think so because one, like WWE aren't even hiring guys, above a certain age limit nowadays. Second, he's not. I mean, if they hire him, they need to let him work on a lot of things that isn't wrestling. He's a good wrestler. There's no doubt about that. But that's what kind of costed him in AEW too. Even as Team Taz was a thing, he was still like Ricky Starks had the it factor about him. Then as a big man, also Powerhouse Hobbs was so much better. No disrespect, also, of course, to Cage. And he has jobbed to both of those guys, and they even took Taz away from him. So he was like left on his own. And of course, like like I was talking about the Twitter aspect, even Ricky Starks burned him. So
Hmm.
there was no coming back for Brian Cage, in all honesty. But having said that, this is another departure that is going to suck a little because, of course, like someone like Brian Cage with his wrestling abilities, he had a lot of potential. He could have been a TNT champion in my eyes, or a tag champion. They would have done like it. It would have been better off having him something to do. Maybe the world championship would have been like an occasional thing, but something he would have like. It could have been a long time coming for him if he was ever into the world championship picture, but for for short-term success sake, he would have made a good TNT champion in my eyes, and it would suck for him to leave. For me to see him leave, and I don't know. I'm very skeptical about him going to WWE. So Impact would be a great avenue for him.
Or,
Now
or
that league,
otherwise, he's doing well in the Indies. And even if he wants to go to a place like Ring of Honor, they have changed their business strategy. He can work there as well.
yeah, he can work. He can work there with Ring of Honor too. But yeah, Ring of Honor has pretty much become the forbidden door if you think about it.
Yeah.
If they can get guys willy nilly wrestle on their shows, get the payday for payday, and halas. If they are interested, they can bring them back again and again.
Yeah. Like he's going to be fine. There are places to work. I was pretty, saying he could go to WWE. You saying he can go to Impact. There are more places to work nowadays. Thing is, these promoters need to up the pay scale, in my opinion.
Mm, yes, you're onto something on that.
Yeah.
He
Take
had a match with
take that
Cassidy.
MLW.
Oh yeah, MLW is also not a bad place for him to go
Yeah.
because like if there's like a no man's land, that's MLW. All these like past wrestlers who aren't being signed anywhere, they're wrestling in MLW and they're doing well for themselves. Like Davey Richards is having his great comeback story over there, and to be honest, he's doing great. Like, he's doing very well for himself.
But let's talk about the
Even
other guy, man.
NW is there.
But let's talk about the other guy,
Even NW, yeah.
Leo Rush.
We don't talk about yes.
This is a special case because after New Year's Eve with the Big Swole TK controversy, this guy it's a good thing he spoke up regarding that situation, but was it necessary to do it on Twitter? That's one aspect. The other thing is this guy signed a short-term contract, maybe a year, even less than a year, because his original debut was Double or Nothing. That was in May.
But his contract started from September, I guess.
So
When
at the end of at the end of the day, it was basically a 6 month contract, I guess.
yep,
So what about the
that's right.
Leo Rush situation, man?
It does feel fishy with the things surrounding it happening. His contract expiring at the same time the whole controversy. It this is one departure that would really, really, really suck because again, his partnership with Dante was going pretty strong, and if it was a short-term deal, they wouldn't have had any big plans for him. But yet he was like a constant feature on television, trying to get Dante over, and he was in a tag team, and there was like a lot of potential with him, and that has been kind of the case of Leo Rush in wrestling with WWE, with NXT, and after that now even with New Japan Strong is the only thing that he's been doing consistently well. Even then, like it's something that he has a lot of potential, but then something or the other happens and it just fizzles out for him. And I was genuinely looking forward to what more they could have done with Leo Rush, but here we are.
And
And
I don't even want to say that he has a lot of personal issues. Like he burns bridges wherever he goes. Because over the years, I got to be a big Leo Rush fan, and I don't want to say negative shit
really,
about him.
me neither. And like it's not even that, and he has admitted to being his quote unquote fuck ups, like he said on Rene Paquette's podcast, that he is aware of the amount of shit that he has done, but he's always seemed to grown up from these mistakes, and AEW was like the perfect place according to him to finally do something, because he was like pretty close with Tony Khan, as his words. And Tony was something he was trying to get him, help him in whichever way possible. But I think, like, with this whole controversy happening and then this situation, something does feel fishy to have happened backstage, because even then, after that, he had written a tweet like, "I'm glad we could mend our differences on this situation, and I'm looking forward to doing something great." And then he just disappeared off television. And what they had given the reason was he was working on the AEW album that they were bringing out, but they just replaced him straight up with Jay Lethal on TV.
So
So
does
yeah,
Jay Lethal will be putting some insight, giving some contribution to that album?
I'm not sure about that, because it's all POC wrestlers telling their own story through songs. So that's the entire gist of the album.
Does Max Caster has any hand in that thing?
I think he does, because even he is a POC. So
He has to be, right?
yeah, he is.
But there you go, man. This is regarding the contract situation, and I think it's a good balance. Like he's signing a lot of guys. On the other hand, he's also letting go of the guys that he may not use. So good little business here.
Yes, and taking this back to last year, there were two people he just let go because of contract expiry. One was Shana and the other was Evelise. But knowing what we know now about both of these ladies, I think it could have been a release as well. We don't know.
And don't forget about the controversial releases because of what happened. Some backlashes, some getting cancelled.
Yeah, one of them was Jimmy Havoc. I think Jimmy Havoc was the only one who was given that end of the stick.
Why did B Priestley get released?
Oh yeah, she was also signed, and then she was just, because she had moved to Japan, and then the whole COVID situation happened. So probably that also could have been a reason.
Understandable. She has been irrelevant these days.
I mean, for a lot of reasons, personal association notwithstanding, and then moving to NXT UK, which has kind of become a death knell for careers now, of relevance rather. Because NXT UK as a show itself, if you want to watch it, without any comments or something, it's not a bad show, but there is no semblance of relevancy to it.
A lot of underutilized talent over there.
Yep.
But moving on, man, let's talk about the beach break review. So they kicked off with a ladder match to crown a undisputed TNT champion. So we have the TNT champion Cody Rhodes versus the interim TNT champion. This is Sammy Guevara. So this ladder match, this didn't turn out to be a very scientific ladder match. Like I was saying last week, the HBK Razor Ramon style. It was your modern style ladder match, but it was, I would say, it was a barn burner of a ladder match, but I wouldn't compare it to one of the greatest ladder match that I've seen, at least in modern days. Or I don't know. What do you think about it? Where do you rank this ladder match? And give me your overall thoughts.
Uh, I mean, similar thoughts as you. I thought this ladder match was like very well done. Like initially it started off pretty slow, but it was like the crescendo of wrestling booking where it just builds up to something and it delivers massively. And this match, like you mentioned, I wouldn't hold up as like one of the all-time greats, but certainly like it was a very enjoyable match. And like these guys weren't even getting tired of climbing like at the first rung itself, so it was a really good match because some wrestlers they just like climb the first rung of the ladder and die instantly.
You know what?
Having said that,
You know what?
yeah,
This could be arguable, but you might put this on a top 10 ladder matches of all time.
top 10 would be a good a fair shout, but yeah, I wouldn't put it top 5. There have been better ladder matches, including the Money in the Bank ones. But yes, I mean, like these guys worked the spots really well, and there was no semblance of like, no logic lost. Like I was talking about dying on the first rung and then, positioning the ladder poorly because you know that they're not going to take the belt. And there was like a few suspension of disbelief where you knew that anytime they could have unhooked the belts and won the damn match, but they executed the spots really well on all corners. The highlight, of course, being Sammy's cutter from one ladder to the other and Cody bouncing. He sold it like that, and they really put Sammy over in that.
But shall we get to the highlights?
Yeah, sure.
So they've started off with your usual wrestling, like a very technical aspect, and then we slowly went into the sports, a sport fest. I can't call it sport fest, like the big moves. Like they started off with both men were fighting on the ladder, and Cody hit a delayed vertical suplex, which was a thing of beauty, and that was your
And
first. Yeah.
Paul Turner was holding the ladder as well, just so that these guys don't fall. Fair play.
And then you get to the spot you mentioned, the springboard on the ladder by Sammy, and he hit Cody with. This could be one of the greatest ladder spots of all time, or the greatest cutter of all time.
There is a TV star who checked out the spot and he's like, "Nah, this made my morning." And he is part of one of my favorite TV shows. So the like it was my wrestling TV crossover come to life. So it that made it even better for me. Like the show is called Community, and the actor's name is Joel McHale.
I think I see in the community.
Oh, it's an awesome show, man. It's very meta, but yeah, it's really good.
Is it that same show where people go to a community college?
Yes,
Ah, yeah, I seen it. I used to see it maybe when it used to come on Star World on my TV.
yeah, it was on Star World and it was on Z Cafe as well briefly.
But yeah, the Sammy cutter, like this was not the it was not your common cutter, man. Like I read a article somewhere that Randy Orton has kind of fucked up his back of taking RKOs, hitting RKOs for all these years. But this guy hit a somewhat of a similar move from a 10 feet height. Like what the fuck?
He is a madman, but I'm also scared that he doesn't fuck it up somewhere and like have his career shorted because that's what the criticism was for Will Ospreay for the longest time.
And the margin of error on this spot could have been something if a little bit here and there, and this could have went wrong for both.
Yes, but kudos to Cody as well. Like he just, I mean, he of course it must have sucked to taken that cutter from such a distance, but he either he was like hurt for real, but he also sold it like death if it wasn't a shoot. pain or whatever you want to call it.
So they also did some Jeff Hardy-esque spot, like Cody set up a ladder upside down with the hinges open, and he suplexed, front suplexed him, Sammy, onto the hinges, and you could the visual was like Sammy got cut by a scissors.
Yes, it reminded me of like there was a match where Jeff Hardy got suplexed on the hinges. I don't remember who was it against.
In TNA,
Probably
I
Edge.
assume.
No, I think it was Edge in Extreme Rules 2009.
Maybe, but like I said, very Jeff Hardy-esque spot. Another Jeff Hardy-esque spot where before this they were actually fighting all around the ring. Like for a second, it almost turned into a false count anywhere. We also had Sammy hitting a cutter somewhere in the crowd. So back to this spot. So what happened was Cody had grabbed the title, and both men basically were hanging like it was Cody who was had the title and that, what do you call it, the hinges or the hook.
The hook.
Yeah, the
Let's just
thing.
go with that.
Yeah, the thing that holds the titles. You know what I mean. So Cody was hanging off it while Sammy just grabbed Cody like he needed something to catch on to. So basically, they did the Jeff Hardy spot from WrestleMania from all those years ago, and both men fall one by one. That was a really great spot. Added some drama to it. So another big spot was another Jeff Hardy-esque move. Sammy hit a swanton on the outside to Cody, and I think also he also hit a GTH at one point. Basically, they were no selling these big moves until we got to the finish. That's what this match was all about, right?
Yeah, but that swanton from the ladder onto another ladder, it has to be the worst bump of the match because man, Sammy was really clutching onto his back after that, and like of course, it must have sucked to have taken that for Cody and Sammy both. But
And
yeah, yeah,
and let's quickly get into the finish. So both men are exchanging blows on the top of the ladder. Also, yet another big spot, a big crossroads.
yes,
But like I said, the finish was both men were exchanging blows, and Sammy would take one of the titles and just bash it across Cody Rhodes' head. Cody was down on the mat, and Sammy was finally able to retrieve both the belts. He's the undisputed TNT champion. So really good match. And what is your take on the outcome, man? I will get to what's the situation with Cody Rhodes, but what's your take on the outcome?
um, like speaking of the match itself, it was awesome. Like best way to have started the show, and at the same time, this match by itself was amazing. Like we mentioned, ladder match. There was no illogical spots in this match, which makes it even better.
Yeah, only
And
thing was
apart from
lack of selling, I guess. Like they were really
lack of
rushing for
selling,
these big spots.
Carney Outlaw Indie mud show bullshit, whatever you want to call it.
I can't call it
But
Outlaw Mud
yeah,
Show because there were no doors here.
I mean, I'm joking, bro.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I get you. I get you. Go on.
But yeah, about the outcome, I'm still a bit miffed because I don't see the point of Cody winning in the first place if the title was going to Sammy. And of course, the more interesting story in this was about Cody Rhodes. So why did he have to win the TNT title if it was just for a brief moment and then it was for Sammy to regain? They could have just done that earlier. And it did feel like a bit of a waste of time in that case, but I digress. I thought this match was more than enough to make up for that lost fact. But you know, I'm curious to see what do they do with Sammy in this title reign of his second title reign rather.
Yeah, kind of. They finally given him another big win on someone like Cody Rhodes. So let's see how this
This was
title
the
reign
first
works
time
out.
yeah, this was the first win over Cody Rhodes as well. So that was like an interesting story too. But apart from that, I'm like, okay, but let's see where this goes.
But I have to admit, man, this Cody Rhodes character, I think I even said it last week, is pretty intriguing. And did you hear his backstage comments?
No, I did not. He was, but from what I could, hear, from what I read from it, it was like he's talking about not being on the payroll and all that stuff. And I think it's somewhat intriguing to add that to his whole situation, which I know he's going to renew with AEW, of course, but he's trying to add to the story of him being a free agent. He's like doing a Brian Pillman of sorts.
Which is pretty good because there is certain buzz around him, especially this week. Even mentioned it. This is a very special week. Like he kind of said that he may show up at the Royal Rumble this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be hilarious.
Imagine if he shows up.
And
I would love it.
I mean, yeah, for the lols, it would be great, but I don't see it happening. And Cody has had a history of trolling wrestling fans, so I'm pretty content with what's happening. If it happens, also I wouldn't mind. I'll just do like I mentioned, for the lols it would be good, but if he whatever he wants to do, he's free to do it.
And he basically put over the Sean Ross Sapp story that about the free agency stuff.
Yeah, I'm yet to check the promo, but from what I heard, I heard it was a good one.
Yeah, it kind of put you in disbelief. Like for this
Hmm.
whole weeks, you made up your mind. He's just messing around. He might sign. He will sign with AEW. But see the way he phrases everything, it puts little doubt in your head.
Yeah, I mean, he is a beautiful orator, as he's a really good promo guy. And man, thinking about it, like it makes me wonder, why didn't WWE put their eggs? I mean, why wasn't he a world heavyweight champion already in WWE?
The thing is, Cody Rhodes is not just one guy. There have been several boots that they have missed.
No doubt about that.
But moving on, man. We had a promo from Team Taz, that is Powerhouse Hobbs with his long and fur coat and absolute
Right.
Ricky Starks. So what happened was they were being interviewed in. Basically, they said there is a beach in Cleveland somewhere, and it turns out to be a frozen lake. Like what the fuck?
Why are they doing a beach show in January though?
That's a huge mystery, man. I think Tony Khan will give you the answer.
I mean, yeah, but
Yeah,
moving on.
but yeah. So basically, it's a frozen lake or a beach. I'm still confused. So this promo basically is Ricky Starks reminding us about the open challenge from Jay Lethal for the FTW title. They also talked about Dante Martin as well. So Tony Schiavone, who was entering them, said, "Let's get rid of this interview because his hands is freezing." There you go. That's the entire segment.
Man, the only highlight of this, I mean, it was a nothing segment in all things considered, but the only highlight for me was Powerhouse Hobbs and that quote of his.
Yeah, I think we need that should be a thing for Mr. Hobbs from now.
The Drip God Powerhouse Hobbs.
No, man, not a drip god. Just bring the fur coat. I think we have a lot of drips going on these days.
Of course. I mean, how can we forget? The Young Bucks itself are there. So,
But moving on, we had the hometown guy from Cleveland, Wardlow, facing Elijah Dean and James Alexander, basically a squash 2-on-1 handicap match. Nothing much. Wardlow sent both these guys into Powerbomb City, the Powerbomb Symphony, excuse me, Powerbomb Symphony thing, and it was a quick squash match, 1 hour, 1 minute, and that's it. Got a big win in his hometown, and there you go, man.
Recording stopped.
I'll give my thoughts.
Okay, start.
Okay, so I mean, of course, Wardlow was in his hometown, so this was possibly, the best way they could have had him get over. And of course, I mean, his Powerbomb Symphony is, of course, over as hell now, after having CM Punk go through that. And at the same time, getting wins over two people at once and him doing Wardlow things. This is like there is more interest now in him than there was ever. And if there was anyone who got him over, with the quick thing, it was CM Punk. Of course, they are building his feud with MJF as well on the side, and that also has been going for like 2 years now, and that build has been super awesome too. Now that with the added advantage of him dominating CM Punk, he's been he's been more endearing to the casual viewers, and of course getting a win in getting such a dominant win in his home in his home just adds another feather to his cap, so which makes it even greater.
And we'll talk about Wardlow again in the next segment that we'll talk about. But before that, let's talk about this trios match. This is the inner circle, that is Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz. They are facing 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. It was just a trios match, but the main story is that we see a lot of tensions, like it has increased this week with Santana and Ortiz. Like it started from the entrance. Like usually they accompany Jericho with him with the big pyros and stuff. But this time they marched instantly to the ring while just leaving Jericho behind, and it continued also in the match. Like Ortiz and Santana, they were not even tagging in Jericho, but until there was something happening in the final moments, like Jericho had to get involved, as the heels were beating the shit out of both proud and powerful members. So what happened was a lot of going on in the final moments. So Jericho, what he did was he hit the Judas effect on one of the 2.0 members, and this basically gave a little assist, as Santana finished off one of the 2.0 members with a pile driver. I think it was Jeff Parker.
Yes, it was no, it was Matt Lee because Jeff Parker was dragged out of the ring by Jericho.
Yeah, one of those guys. So the pile
Mm.
driver, got the win for the inner circle team, and Jericho just left these two guys and flipped them off. So they're going on with this story here, and still don't know what the plans could be. And is this Eddie Kingston injury serious? By the way, I want to know.
It is. It is because Tony just confirmed it last week on. I think it was either on an elevation appearance, dark appearance, or it could have been on what do you say? On he does these radio shows, right? Serious with Bully Ray. So it could have probably been there, but he did confirm that Eddie Kingston is injured and will be out for a few weeks. So hopefully it's nothing major as well. So
At least in that case, at least they're progressing with the other half of what they are trying to tell with this story. The inner circle breakup with at least proud and powerful walking out of the group.
yeah, I mean, I hope it happens and they align with Kingston full time. And imagine a stable with Eddie, Proud and Powerful, and Moxley. That's something, right? I mean, they'll be moving from one faction to the other, but again, like they'll handle business their own way. Because if the story is what they're trying to say is like, Santana and Ortiz have been fighting Jericho's battle instead of, being in contention for the tag titles.
And I'm waiting to see the return of that graphic that says Eddie Kingston addresses his enemies.
Addresses enemies. Shit,
But
that was top five, top five AEW moment in my eyes.
But as we move on, let's talk about the situation going on with the world champion, the AEW world champion, Hangman Adam Page, and his situation going on with Lance Archer. So they showed a little, interview bit, a promo package, some sort. Like we are getting this match between Hangman Page and Lance Archer in, you could say, Archer's, element. That is the Texas Death Match, and I assume this is going to happen in. I think they are going back to Texas or Dallas, something like that.
Cedar Park, Texas, which is Dallas. They did. I think they did the same show over there where Lance won the U.S. Championship.
So kind of makes sense. And Page initially, while they were switching off these promos, like he was very fired up babyface promo. And when he heard from the guy that was conducting this interview that Archer doesn't want to fight Page in a normal match, but in a Texas death match, and Page said,
What?
"What?" That was his reaction.
This is- That's our anxious millennial cover right there.
And then he was ready for this Texas death match, and he doesn't mind, getting choke slam through and black hole slams, anything like that. But basically, he's ready for this match, and this is for the world title, right? I missed this part.
Of course, it was for of course, it is for the world title. But the only iffy part is how did Lance Archer get a shot ahead of Adam Cole, who's number one? But again, they need to sort that out in kayfabe. In terms of explaining us how did Archer get that shot to begin with. That being said, it's going to be a great match, and of course, another great way to put Hangman over. Going ahead of this big dominant guy.
So you
And
just you go on,
yeah,
go on.
no, I mean after that match in Texas, Dallas no less, Hangman winning and Archer has to turn back babyface, right?
I don't know. I think he should stay heel for a while.
I think he should too, but he's much more endearing as a babyface. This monster, who just loves to fly around. It's good to see him in that element, but it's his hometown, so I'm not really sure if he'll remain a heel after that. Because they might have this embracing thing. They even did that with Moxley. I think no, Moxley was wrestling as a heel in that match. But after the match, when Archer won the US title, they held their arms up in the air.
We'll have to wait and see. But let's talk about, you just mentioned the situation and how Lance Archer got the world title shot. Uh, let's talk about this thing with the tag team titles, the AEW tag team titles. So we had a segment featuring Christian Cage with Jurassic Express and Matt Hardy with Private Party. So I think it's on this week's Rampage that the Jurassic Express will be defending the AEW World Tag Team titles against Private Party, who are ranked number one, by the way. So
How?
they had a little back and forth. So this ended with Jungle Boy claiming that Private Party actually wear fake watches. So this pissed off the Private Party boys, and that's basically it. And
I love this.
okay, this is little okay. It actually makes sense with Private Party getting a title shot, but I'm seeing this thing that they are treating this title reign of Jurassic Express like, I don't want to see this tag title matches every week now.
I mean, so far we've only gotten. Wait, who else did they defend against?
Silver and Reynolds.
Silver and Reynolds, yes, but besides that, did they wrestle? Did they defend it against someone else?
No, this happened. It didn't happen last
Week
week. I
ago.
think the week before that.
Yeah, it happened the week before on Rampage, and last week we had there was the TBS Championship, and there was one more. Was there another tag
No,
title
that
match?
was it was just the TBS title that was being defended at Rampage last week.
Rampage, yeah. So I mean, it's not defended every week, but I do see where you're coming from because it's like in a span of 2 weeks, span of 3 weeks they defended it twice. I agree with you on that, but I don't know. I'm just excited to see some good wrestling, and if this is another way to build some dissension in the Hardy Party, I was gonna call it HFO, but it's not the complete one. If this is a way to build dissension into it, then it's a good story progression. But my main question is, how did Private Party become number one? Did they just like stat pad wins on Dark and Elevation, or
And the usual stuff that they once their reset happened this year, they were one of the top teams that got the most wins and all, I guess.
probably, yeah, probably. But yeah, it's all Dark and Elevation stuff that counts now. So
But
yeah.
yeah, that's one of my gripe with this thing. Like, I don't believe that Private Party is going to get the titles.
No, no, no. I mean, it's just them. Like, it's them or the Butcher of the Blade. It's a similar case that happened with the start of Lucha Bros' tag title reign, because like the first title shot that Butcher and Blade were the first people to get a title shot, and Butcher was like missing from 6 to 7 months due to injury. And then we were wondering, how did he get a title shot? And then later on, there were like other guys who happened to get a title shot, like Acclaimed, for example, and there was another team forgetting.
FTR, that was a big program.
No, 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 not FTR. FTR was a big program. Yes, I'm talking about these, these top cap title defenses. It was Butcher and Blade, and there was one more. And okay, that's never mind. Let's not dive too deep into that. But the point is, like, I read this comment from V1, from OSW Review. Big shout out there, huge fan. Because he keeps reviewing these AEW shows on his Twitter. Like, he just posts his and gives his thoughts on it. So he had a point when he said that only a quarter of AEW's major viewership, like the people who watch Dynamite and Rampage, out of which only a quarter they watch Dark and Elevation to keep up with what's happening. And not everyone knows how did they get the title shot. And if they do, they should try to explain better on TV. And even, for example, we had that situation where Hangman and Brian Danielson had that no contact clause, and if they do, either of them will get suspended. They should have at least they should have done the courtesy of featuring that tweet on TV, because they just Tony Khan just tweeted about it, and they're like, yeah, that's a thing now, and we don't like, they should not touch each other or else they'll be suspended. I'm like, the fans also should know about it, right? Because the fans can't hear commentary either, and they should also be aware of what's happening live in front of their eyes.
The thing with Dark and Elevation is it can be easily, it is accessible easily to everyone.
Yes, but if they are managing to incorporate it into storylines, which kudos to them, they're actually taking an effort to. They should try to explain it even further instead of just leaving it up to that and just having the commentators explain, like, yeah, this happened on the other show that you're not watching.
I don't know, man. They really need to work on some of these things. But yeah, we're getting the tag title match this week. The Jurassic Express team mostly will be retaining. But let's move on. Yeah, let's move on. And let's talk about, a great television here on Dynamite. This is CM Punk. Basically, he was out to, for a promo thing, but he was ready for a fight. Usually getting a huge reaction, came out with a big smile, was ready for a fight, dressed in a very street fight like, attire with the long boys and taped up fist. And he actually got a black one this time. I think that's the first time I've seen him.
Yes, like ever for that matter, because even in WWE, whenever he used to wrestle, it was just taped fists, but with an X on it, and it was white. This was like a fresh change of pace to see. And traditionally, the black tapes are for the heels, and the white tapes are for the baby faces. Traditionally, that is.
But he came out and he got in the mic and he talked about almost getting his hands on MJF last week, but he was able to walk out with a silver near. So he opened his jacket and revealed the scarf he got from MJF last week, and he started shitting on this scarf, saying that he googled something about this scarf and said you can easily get it on Amazon for $5 a pack.
Which is as cheap as his personality.
That was a good line. And this led to MJF walking out, and Cleveland was booing the hell out of this guy, which was a great sight to behold, like always. So MJF was doing his usually troll job, when it comes to him and Punk. Like, he's just like insulting Punk in every manner here, and he talks about like, let's get to the main part here. Like, he usually was teasing, do you want to see this match? Then looks for the reaction from the crowd. He did a very fun thing here. Like there was one part that he didn't get the reaction he wanted, and he actually called the Cleveland crowd dumb or deaf at this point.
Yeah, it's like I knew you were dumb, but I didn't know you were deaf. Like they were obviously reacting, but MJF was like, tried to hear it but ignored it. That
So
that's
MJF gets to the main part here. So usually for weeks he was trolling, that you want to see this match between Punk and MJF, and this time he really announces it that next week it will be CM Punk and MJF in Chicago. It's happening, and from
it's fine.
there they moved on to the rest of the promo, and he said that he will embarrass Punk again, and this time, and he kind of said that whenever Punk loses, he complains that it's been a thing that he complains for things that he never gets, something like that, and also brought up a incident like that. This was years ago, 8 years ago, I think, that he was about to show up on for a show in Cleveland, but he no showed and turned his back on all the fans, and also claimed that you'll.
That's that's basically the night he walked out of WWE. That's he paraphrased it into fitting his heel agenda. MJF, that is that.
Was this the show? Was this on a Raw episode?
Yes, it was a Raw episode after the Royal Rumble where he just walked out of the company saying how much he hated working with
Ah, that
WWE.
makes sense. That makes sense then.
Yeah, that was the like it happened in Cleveland, and also unfortunately his first fight where he lost was also in Cleveland.
The first UFC fight.
First UFC fight, yeah,
Wow. So
in the same arena, no less. This was a different arena, but yeah,
So MJF said that he's going to Punk is going to go to that same phase. He's going to embarrass Punk in his hometown, and he's going to walk out again from pro wrestling, and maybe go talk about it on a podcast. And Punk had a great comeback line, and you're going to listen to that podcast, right? Because you're a fan. I loved that line.
me too. And it also that line also kind of fits the meme lore because like there was a meme for the longest time on the indies that Colt Cabana is MJF's dad because both are Jewish, of course.
And from
And they
there,
so
yeah, and from there, this promo progressed again. Like Punk is coming off as a genuine babyface. MJF, the hated heel. So when he even puts over Cleveland here and says, puts over the people of Cleveland. So for a second, MJF was ready, like Punk was, just pushing MJF's button to get in the ring and let's have this fight now here in Cleveland. So MJF finally decides to show up, but he was not alone as he was accompanied by FTR and Wardlow. So Punk was getting ready for this big beatdown that he was sensing, and he was blindsided by Sean Spears, and then we had a 5-on-1 beatdown. So there was
four
this.
on one.
How many members of the Pinnacles are there?
There are five, but MJF didn't get physical with Punk.
Ah, I see. So FTR and Sean Spears are beating up Punk. So MJF orders Wardlow, the hometown guy, powerbomb him. And Wardlow was little, iffy about it. Should I do it or not? I'm in my hometown. This poor guy. Why should I beat him up? And Wardlow finally decides to, hit a power bomb on a steel chair, by the way. And Punk was just beaten up to a pulp. Then MJF was talking more trash to Punk, and he did the sit down pose on Punk's body. And at this point, a beach break was interrupted by G1 Climax 2019 finals, where Kenta sat on Katsuyori Shibata. There you go.
Oh yes. Also, a small connection was Kenta debuted at last year's Beach Break. If you think about it,
Man,
and
the theories here.
that wasn't. Huh? Yeah, that wasn't the intention, but that's like a good, interesting note.
A great fan
But
theory, you can say.
big fan theory is a great way to put it. Thank you. But it was also like basically Jeff sitting in the same pose as Punk did on his pipe bomb, but instead he was sitting on CM Punk.
So there you go, man. We are getting the match next week, or are we?
I have a feeling it's just going to be a fake out.
They will, unlike they will have the match. They will have the match, but there will be something to fuck up or a screwy finish because this has to go to the pay per view, man.
Yeah, but I'm just scared that if this fake out finish happens or something, I just hope they aren't at a point where the feud loses steam, because for the past week it was kind of going there, where the more interest was moving towards MJF and Wardlow.
Yeah, it's
So I
kind
hope,
of like a wave.
yeah, it is, it very much is.
Yeah, and
But having said that, like, I hope they don't fall to their old habits where, AEW at one point was criticized for giving us a blow off way later than it's hot. So that's my only concern. But knowing the talent involved in this feud, it's certainly like they'll still manage to keep it hot until the pay per view. And this is a big match that should happen at the pay per view and not
this
on
is
any of the.
yeah. In a way, this can main event the pay per view.
All things considered, yes.
Yeah, and at this point, there is nothing heading towards the pay per view that is as hot as this feud, man.
Oh yes, absolutely. And like I said, knowing the two talent that are involved in this case, they can make anything relevant.
Yeah, this has to be what they are looking forward to or could be planning towards because you can't blow up this match on a random dynamite even if it's in Chicago. I
Yeah,
think there is
it's in
more.
Chicago.
Yeah,
At the same time, it's not even a special dynamite. Like Beach Break was a special dynamite. Next week is just a regular dynamite. I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say.
yeah, I get it. But that's the only thing that makes sense. You can't end this next week only. Like usually it is a AEW thing. They don't tend to have rematches, but this would make sense, in a traditional wrestling aspect.
Yeah, probably like this is kind of giving me flashbacks to Jericho versus MJF as well. They happened to blow it off on Dynamite, the whole labels of Jericho thing, but they did a rematch again with added stakes, and that's how they finished the story. They finished the story, yes.
If that feud, ended on a good note, then this has surpassed it.
Oh, I think this is miles better than that. Like, even though it was for a shorter duration, because MJF and Jericho lasted for a year, the entire story, from him, joining the inner circle to then forming Pinnacle and then beating Jericho. So I thought this is way past that. But at the same time, like, this was for like a shorter duration. This is going on since November after Full Gear, if I'm not mistaken. And since then, like, it has continued to be one of the hottest things in the company. So kudos to them.
That's great, man. I'm really looking forward to it. But as we move on, we heard from the Acclaimed. They talked about John Moxley here and talked about their interactions in the last year or so. Like lot of thing like we had something going on with them and Eddie Kingston and John Moxley at one point, and
Yeah, that was when Mox and Eddie were trying to get a title shot for Double or Nothing. They were
and
climbing up the rank.
yeah, and I think they even got involved in the business of the Acclaimed and Brian Pillman Jr. Remember that in his hometown.
Yeah, that was after All Out.
So basically, they did a rap on a diss track on Moxley here, basically building towards a match at Rampage with Anthony Bowens versus John Moxley. So there you go. Great to see the Acclaimed on TV.
Yes, also great to see Great to know John Moxley is having a match.
And I forgot, man, the Acclaimed ended this segment with the thing, the the thing that they do.
Mic drop.
Yeah,
It's a sexual joke, so
but
just let it be.
pretty entertaining though.
Yeah, everyone loves the.
Everyone loves the Acclaimed. But let's talk about our boy, who I shall not call Mean Mark. It is Smart Mark Sterling. He was there to give some breaking news to Julia Hart and Griff Garrison, who, by the way, are having an interview segment. So this was interrupted by Sterling here. So he said that Julia Hart has been, Jade Cargill has, picked Julia Hart to be the next challenger for the TBS Championship on this week's Rampage. And he also had a contract, saying what the current case with Julia Hart and the eye patch and the injured eye or whatever is going on here. So Griff Garrison jumped in saying that you shouldn't accept this challenge, and Julia Hart said no, just shouted at Griff Garrison saying she can take her decision properly. She can decide things for herself and fight her own battles. So we are getting this impromptu title match, and let's see what this story is with Julia Hart and the eye patch and stuff.
Man, like they are building towards Julia moving, defecting to the House of Black. If you notice, I mean, we'll talk about this eventually, but it is a slow tease for her turning heel. Even like on the vlogs and stuff, she's like acting in character, acting all weird, like falling into the trash bin and trying to, like crashing onto the lift, the elevator door. So yeah, she's just going all berserk, and it's only a matter of time before she joins House of Black. So they're just biding time and building towards it. Speaking of Jade, I mean, sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but last week they did fulfill my wish, having the TBS title match main event, just so that I could hear John Silver do the "It's time for the main event" bit.
And it was a really good match, man. I praised it
No,
a lot, me and Abby, on the Rampage
yes,
review.
I mean, like of course, it was miles better than what anyone was expecting, so it was good in that sense.
But moving on, the women's action here, we had legit Leyla Hirsch facing Red Velvet. They had their story going on with Chris Statlander. Leyla Hirsch being a little mean these days, turning heel. So this was a really good match. Went about 8 minutes or so. The story was regarding Red Velvet, and I think she has a injured shoulder right now, which was taped
Hmm.
up.
So was Layla, but yeah,
Yeah, both ladies were taped up with that Kanesio tape, you call it.
yeah.
So the finish saw Leila Hirsch actually getting the win with a roll up pin and grabbing the tights, which is a very heelish thing to do. Even commentators called it. And
Yeah, she's number two, it seems, Layla Hirsch,
on the
which
rankings,
is yeah, which is interesting.
it is. It is. Little post match bit here with Leila Hirsch, continuing the assault, locked in the cross arm breaker or the arm bar. I'm still confused.
The legit lock,
Both the same thing? A cross arm breaker and a arm bar.
kind of. Armbar could be anything. Cross arm breaker is that thing,
Okay,
which she now calls the legit lock, or she has been calling for a while.
so she locked in the legit lock, and Chris Statlander came for the save, and she actually went outside the ring to chase Leila Hirsch here. And Jim Ross pointed it out that there are often there has been times in wrestling where people think there is an invisible door or something like that, and they stop for a second. But Chris Statlander, did something different here. Very interesting point from JR over there.
I mean, he's been noticing a lot of things lately, so
Yeah, he does a
it's
little
good to know.
criticism. That's a JR thing. He points out a little criticism on air.
I mean, he's not afraid to call shit out, and I kind of respect that. But sometimes it gets overboard.
But he's JR, man. We love him.
He's yeah, we love JR.
So yeah, man. This thing with Leila Hirsch, like she comes off like a lovable heel, I guess.
Yeah, she's just so adorable.
But she is legit.
She's legit, no doubt about that. And speaking of no doubt about that, she should join Team TAS sometime soon.
Yes.
She should be joining.
Where should I sign, man? Where should I sign?
Where should you sign? Anywhere.
But yeah, the things are looking good for those two. And yeah, the women's division, they have put all the focus on the TBS title situation, I guess. We'll get to that when we talk about Britt Baker.
Hmm. Yeah, you're probably right about that because there is yeah the women's title hasn't had any proper feuds for the past month or so because I think the last I remember was Riho getting a title shot at Battle of the Bells. After that, now then Britt Baker interfered in that match with Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy, and after that, it's like yeah, she's been part of that feud, and now she's back to the. So it's been a while since we've seen the Women's World Championship in action. Well, now the focus is more on TBS, and it's a good thing that the undercard is getting some time to shine. It's like that's been AEW's major flaws with the women, the bookings of the women's division. But this is something I appreciate that they've been actively trying to mend those ways and trying to better it. But it when the whole focus is on one thing, the other thing that they do is left high and dry. So that's also something that they need to sort out, which I'm sure they will.
But well, before we getting into the Britt Baker thing, we heard from the Kings of the Black Throne. Did I get it right?
Yeah,
This
Kings
is
of Black Throne.
Malachi Black and Brody King. Malachi actually acknowledges, the Cody promo where he talked about Malachi and acknowledges the shout out from Cody, which was a great thing he brought up. And then he talks about the thing going on with Death Triangle and Pac, and basically threatens them, and like that's the entire gist of the promo. Like, well, it is pretty intriguing, and yeah, that's basically it.
And next week they have a tag match: Park and Penta versus the Kings of the Black Throne. And also, these guys are already top five in the tag rankings. Maybe it's because of the reset thing.
Or is it because of like I mentioned, Jurassic Express is quickly going into beating these people, with this title shots we are seeing every week now?
Hmm.
Kind of makes
But
sense.
yeah, kind of makes sense. But here we go. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this match next week.
Should be good, and let's see where Park, what Park does. We are predicting a kind of a betrayal of dead, like leaving Death Triangle to join House of Black.
I mean, I would love for it to happen, but I kind of hope not as well because there is more to gain from Dead Triangle than him joining House of Black.
We'll have to wait and see. But let's talk about Doctor Britt Baker, DMD. She had a special promo thing. So Shivani was in the ring, and we see some accolades of Britt Baker lately with Pro Wrestling Illustrated and also Inside the Ropes. She got several year end awards, I guess.
Yeah, Women's Wrestler of the Year and Match of the Year with Thunder Rosa, and Most Improved as well.
Didn't Bianca Belair get that award? Wrestler of the Year, Women's Wrestler of the Year.
Not that I am aware.
Like, who topped the PWI top 50 women's?
Yeah, I don't remember honestly.
But anyways, Britt Baker was out there, uh, gloating about her
Flaunting.
gloating about her accomplishments, and there was this thing going on where she's putting over Pittsburgh here heavily. Like, I think it started from when she brought out that Pittsburgh towel, and the crowd started booing her instantly.
Yeah.
So that was the theme of this entire promo, putting over Pittsburgh and her. I think the local team Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I guess.
Yep. It was weird. It was a weird promo to be honest. Like it was more about the like it was a self promotion rather, and also at the same time it was like her dissing the sports teams.
Yeah,
There was no
yeah. Basically, the things you mentioned. I thought it was a good promo, but I think she was rushing a little bit, I guess.
yeah, we're out of time.
Ah,
Classic Tony Schiavone line.
yeah, that type of situation. If it was an MJF or Punk, seeing how great they are,
Oh,
she even
that was
mentioned
a good
those two as well, right?
she even mentioned both of them, right?
Yeah, saying also said it's been a crime that she hasn't been given the mic in ring, like an in ring segment. Like, everything has been backstage for months now.
Yeah, I mean she was right about that. It's been a long ass time since she cut a promo in the ring.
So basically, like she was rushing throughout this promo segment, and the material was good, but the delivery you could say was not good. I guess.
I thought it was a good promo from her, but yeah, we didn't know what the message was besides her just flaunting her accomplishments.
And to go back to our earlier discussion about the women's title picture, it I think they have put it on ice right now, like we just mentioned, putting all the focus on the TBS thing. Like, what's her thing going when Revolution comes around? Will they go back to the Thunder Rosa thing, because Thunder Rosa has yet to settle her differences with Mercedes Martinez.
That's a match that is definitely going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
So
Because she's like heavily promoted for the Florida shows, Thunder Rosa. So,
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But one last note regarding the women's division: Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose, showed up, and they were talking about their situation regarding Nyla Rose, quote unquote, being screwed out of the TBS title picture when Ruby So costed her the opportunity. So she was out there to challenge Ruby Soho, and there you go. I think it's happening on next week's Dynamite.
yeah, she called her out for next week's Dynamite.
And yeah, man. So let's talk about the main event, shall we? Or you want to give a little preview for Rampage?
I mean, I think we did cover the matches for Rampage. Besides, I mean, there was Moxley versus Bowens. There's the tag title match. There's a TBS title match, and there's another match.
Which I don't remember at this point.
I mean, yeah, let's just roll with it.
Yeah, but the sad part is no Hook, the crook.
No hook. Yep. The only feature we got of Hook was him being announced for the GM mode game.
Easy.
Yeah.
Well, that's great for Hook. But let's talk about this main event. This is Adam Cole, baby,
Bebe.
versus Orange Cassidy. So this is a unsanctioned lights out match. I thought it was fine. It was nothing special. Like this was not on the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa unsanctioned match we saw last year, or even the previous type of unsanctioned lights out matches that they have done. Even Joey Janela versus even Joey Janela versus John Moxley was miles better than this one, I guess.
I mean, it had its moments. It was great in parts, I'd say, but overall, like, it doesn't compare to the other ones. And that's probably the best way that's the most generous way I could put it.
So let's go with the flow here with the highlights. So they are like it's a unsanctioned lights out match. So Cassidy had a very serious look on his face. So started off, and got rid of the sunglasses quickly, and he was the one who smashed it.
Yeah.
So basically, they were trying to not have a traditional wrestling match, and but basically have a fight. So this fight went to the outside. So what happened was Adam Cole decided to get something from under the ring. So I think he was pulling out a chair, but this chair was not coming out easily. I think someone was like it was not. It was trying to pull it, and when he finally pulls it, who comes out? It's that Danhausen. The crowd lost their mind. The crowd basically lost their mind, and you could see Danhausen cursing Adam Cole, and this was what set the tone for the entire match, basically giving a little assist to Orange Cassidy. Let's get back to Danhausen when we cover the entirety of this match. So this basically became a street fight. There was a table spot where Cassidy just tackles Adam Cole, and the table just explodes. So the usual weapons being introduced. Adam Cole hit a backstabber with the help of a chain wrapped around Cassidy, which looked insane.
Also, like one of the main parts of this match was when he was Cassidy was going for the orange punch, and then Adam Cole hits him with the ring bell, so it brings a laceration on Cassidy's hand, which he couldn't get most of his power, and he was struggling to even hit the basic strikes. So that was also one story of this match.
Also, we had the involvement of Bobby Fish coming out and some of the best friends. They had a little big brawl. The Young Bucks also showed up, super kicked Chuck Taylor, I believe. So there was a spot
Ricky
where,
Romero as well.
yeah, there was a spot where Orange Cassidy actually hit a beach break, no pun intended, on Adam Cole, but that couldn't get the job done. Uh, there was another spot where Orange Cassidy actually hit the Panama Sunrise on Adam Cole. Adam Cole kicked out. So the fight went to the staging area. Like they even fought to the gorilla position that they call it. I don't know what AEW calls it.
Dusty position.
Really?
Yeah.
So they went to the dusty position, and we could see TK, Tony Khan, and Jerry Lynn
My
uh,
guy.
when they were fighting near this, the backstage area, and you could see Tony Khan in a very comical manner. He was just peeping out in the frame.
No, he was trying not to be there. We could only see his hand, and we could just see it for like a flash, and then these guys just take the match outside to the stage.
So the fight continues on the stage area. So what happened was Adam Cole was looking for a big Panama Sunrise on the staging area, and there was no Orange Cassidy on the spot. So the big spot. Let's talk about the big spot here. Orange Cassidy gave the people what they wanted. Hugged Adam Cole. Adam Cole was,
It was a low blow for.
for a second he was trapped, nowhere to go, and this led to a big fall. Both men, crashing on the staging area, and it reminded me of the blood and guts spot, man, with Jericho.
But this was done significantly better in terms of camera shot. So I'd say this one was better.
Yeah. So basically, Orange Cassidy won with a big hug. You can say that.
Man, they gotta give the people what they want.
Yeah. And there was another part where Bryce Remsburg almost tripped Temple, and the crowd died laughing.
Oh yes, he did.
I have to say, Bryce Remsburg is built differently, huh?
He's in fact my favorite AEW referee if I had to choose.
Behind
Again,
Aubrey.
yeah, I'd put Aubrey up there as well, but Bryce is like a different animal, man. He takes no shit from anyone. If MJF is like using the ropes as an advantage to pin, he just kicks MJF's legs out of there. Like I'm watching AW with my brother nowadays, and like he also just adores Bryce Remsburg getting physical with people.
And I love how he does the pinfall thing, like jumping crisscross and doing the 1, 2, 3. Great.
Man, build different is the best way to put it for Bryce Remsburg.
There you go, man. This thing with Orange Cassidy is finally done. Hopefully, this has to be the blow off match or of whatever the feud was going on with the best friends in the elite. And this loss actually doesn't count in Adam Cole favor, because this is unsanctioned. It doesn't count. So Adam Cole should be, in that number one rankings, but still a defeat. So should is it okay for Adam Cole to go to Revolution and challenge Hangman Page for the world title?
The numbers don't lie, so yes. And also, like, he was still protected, right? He's falling off from such a big place, and with hardcore matches, that's like a good way to protect both wrestlers in defeat or in win. But having said that, like another story of this match was also, Adam Cole low blowing Orange Cassidy on multiple occasions. So there was one part where Adam Cole low blows Orange and then he doesn't feel it. Then he just removes the cup out of it with thumbtacks. So Adam Cole's hand was also, hurt. And before the ending where Orange Cassidy, crashes Adam Cole down. So before that, also Cassidy gives Cole a low blow for all the receipt and then the final spot. So this was possibly the best way they could have concluded this feud, even though I felt that it might have gone a bit too long for my taste, and both of them can go to their own their own stories after this, whatever comes forth. Which Adam Cole is most likely going to challenge for the title, and with Orange Cassidy, we don't know what's next. But this was possibly the best way they could have ended the feud, and yeah, excited to see what comes next for both of these guys.
But let's talk about that Danhausen, and we got the news that he's all elite. Hausen deserves it. Like a year ago, let's be honest, this guy was the biggest thing in the indies, and he kind of has gone mainstream as well with his gimmick.
And also Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, that's the thing I was just mentioning. Like, this guy is one of the smartest guy in the industry right now.
And he doesn't have to wrestle either just to just get featured. Like on purely from a marketing perspective, it's an excellent signing by AEW. He's going to print money for the company,
Yeah,
be it t-shirts, action figures, merches, whatever. And like I said, he doesn't have to wrestle much either. This was what we had initially envisioned for Orange Cassidy when AEW started. We were like, AEW is going to be like a sports-like presentation, but what's Orange Cassidy has to do with it? But now, knowing how great Orange Cassidy is as a wrestler, he's also fallen into, like, what, the variety that AEW provides. And Danhausen is also that. Like, you're not expecting him to be, the typical AEW signing, but he's going to deliver on all the other promises. And if it's possible, like, if he can wrestle the likes of, whoever's AEW has to offer, and if he can just mold into that zone, then he could also be like a good wrestler, for AEW for the longest time. But purely on a marketing sense, for like merchandising, etc., I am super excited for him.
that's the reason why Tony Khan got him for, knowing how Danhausen will making money in the merch department and the action figure, like you mentioned.
Yes, and also Jim Cornette loves him, so that's really nice.
The only reason he loved him because he wasn't seeing on AEW TV. I think opinions
Neither
may
is.
opinions might change, but I think he prefers him over Cassidy.
Yeah, he does.
And the thing with Danhausen, he's like I said, this guy is one of the smartest guy in the industry. Like, with this gimmick and all, like, he had to work hard to get a ring of honor contract, and he didn't even do shit to get this AEW contract. He earned it like this.
Yep. And also of course he was friends with most of the AEW guys, and like he also did the Jericho cruise.
And yeah, it's been a progress for Danhausen actually. Like,
Yep,
his name got bigger and bigger and bigger, and as he as the gimmick got over.
for sure.
And we might see, think about the dream scenarios: Danhausen and CM Punk, Danhausen and the Ass Boys.
Oh, they filmed this segment backstage, right? With he's like Colton and Austin are talking, and then Danhausen just walks by on a scooty, and they're like, "Oh my God, no!" And when Tony posted the Danhausen is all elite, so Austin is like, "My life is ruined."
and
Billy Gunn was quite receptive to Danhausen, so that's a good thing.
and we also saw some criticism from the Twitter faithfuls, like saying Danhausen getting signed. Like, who is this guy? Like, you should put your money in guys like Keith Lee, etc., etc. Who? Why have you signed this clown? Like, do you even know who Danhausen is?
They're about to get cursed
They're
because
going to
of this.
get cursed bad, like big time.
Also, speaking of like, with regards to Danhausen itself, I was just going to say, yeah, not just Danhausen, man. Even Adam Cole is buried on AEW as per the Twitter faithfuls. Like, do you think Adam Cole is going to bounce back from this defeat and be taken seriously as a challenger? I mean, look at him.
Adam
How can
Cole,
you?
Adam Cole
Dude,
in the mud.
he was main eventing takeovers.
Like I said, Adam Cole in the mud.
Adam Cole in the mud.
He's
How
done.
dare
He's
Tony
finished.
Khan ruin? How dare Tony Khan ruin an NXT creation? How
Yeah,
dare he?
Yeah, when Keith Lee gets to AEW, he can finally be his manager.
Yeah, and he'll be Bearcat Lee again.
There you go, man. That's the thing with Dynamite and the Beach Break, the special. Really good show. And don't know, man, we will do this next time because you're coming here back to India.
Yep, for a month. So I'll be on leave, but it's like it's going to happen sooner or later. We'll see each other pretty soon.
But before that, Ridwan, where can these guys find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at rid_Rahman. And if you're watching this in video form, you can see it somewhere here, the bottom side.
And you can find Slamhub Wrestling on Twitter at SlamHubW, Instagram at SlamHub Wrestling. You can catch this review and Anchor and Spotify as well. This was the AEW Dynamite Beach Break review, and I'll see you guys next time.
Adios.
Recording stopped.
क्योंकि बैटरी लो है मैं जरा अभी चार्ज करने लेता हूँ क्या हुआ I'll cut off